Was there any point that you thought, I should just give up? This would be easier. Maybe I'm not cut out for it. Hi everyone, my name is Alex Dobson and welcome to part 2 of my chat with Sarah Selly. Sarah Selly is a co-founder and CEO of Space iShare, which is an Airbnb for storage space. If you haven't seen part 1 of my chat with Sarah, please check it out. Now let's go to part 2. Entrepreneurship is usually a roller coaster of ups and downs.
Yeah.
How low have you felt throughout this journey? Like the lowest?
The lowest? I would say the toughest time for me, there's been a couple, I would say. One of them was actually going through an accelerator program. So accelerators are like little MBAs, mini MBAs for startups. And typically an accelerator would be something whereby you would spend 12 weeks in a location. Oftentimes it's not in the location where you live. And you would be coached by people as to how to be better startups. So typically with a Techstars type program, they would run you through 2 to 3 weeks of mentor madness. And for us, it was 2 weeks of meeting 60 different people in the startup space. And all of them would spend about 20 minutes with you. And it's like a quick dating
like a
scenario, speed dating, right?
Yeah.
So you go in, you tell them what you're doing, you tell them how well you're doing or where your hangups are, what you need help with, and that person would be like, I can help you. You talk a little bit and then you'd be like, all right, on to the next person. And so day after day, you're like saying the same thing and talking and meeting all these really awesome people that are really great in their domain. And you're just like, wow, I'd love to work with these people. So that was cool. And then after the 2 weeks, you spend the next 10 weeks over that time, both connecting with your mentors whom you're chosen and you choose them. You go through classes where they, do Startup 101, like what's a KPI and how do you measure success and, what's your SEO looking like and how are we going to iterate on a daily basis to see what's resonating with people. So there's all kinds of very fast things that need to happen and there's a lot of pressure as well. So as a CEO, my role mostly was to just pitch better and to do so that I would be able to go up on a stage at the end of the 12 weeks and do what is called demo day. And demo day, you're typically up on stage in front of a room full of say 400 to 600 investors and people of different backgrounds, and you pitch your platform, you pitch your startup, and usually you want to have a couple of wow factors in there. Like in the past 12 weeks we've done X and this time we've done Y, just wow them with all these awesome things and how you're great and how the idea is great. And so the challenge is that during those 12 weeks you also have a lot of pressure on you to perform and to have some really great metrics that you can demonstrate. And if you as a company are failing on any of those, or if you have challenges in any of those areas, it's going to be pretty apparent that you're not delivering the best pitch you can possibly pitch. So with that comes a lot of challenge, and you can end up really feeling stressed because it's just there's so much that has to be done and you literally have a hard time getting out of bed. Like I would just lie there and not want to move. I'd want to just flake off for the entire day, go watch Netflix, just go in a dark room and just drink or something, right? And so I think a lot of people resort to extracurricular activities just to help manage their stress patterns. One of the great things that Merge Lane did was they assigned us a therapist. And so each CEO had their own therapist that they got to speak with an hour a week. So 12 hours in total of therapy, which is crucial for startup entrepreneurs because you're not only managing your business, but you're also managing your mental health. And when you're stretching so much as a human being and going above and beyond what you're comfortable doing, much like someone's got to run the fastest race they've ever run, it's always, or even like a marathon, it's all mental. It's all getting out of your own way and figuring out how to do stuff, but also just taking that leap of faith and saying, okay, I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna do it better and faster. And it's challenging, because a lot of times we don't realize that a lot of what holds us back is, well, it's all us, it's all ourself, but at the same time, it's all those patterns that you picked up as a child. So you're going through your life being told as a young child, well, you can't do this or don't do that, or your parents are always there to protect you, but sometimes they don't realize they've overprotected you. And so if you've grown up in a household where there's a lack of, like a lack mentality, like there's not enough, most people have, like, I don't know about your parents, but I know my parents, my in-laws, most people I knew had parents that would be like, oh, what do you think, money grows on trees, and we don't have enough money for that, and this is too expensive, and we can't afford that. And I was a child who grew up with a single mom, and there was 4 of us, and it was like really a household of lack. Like there was a lot of feeling like there was never enough money. So those kind of patterns you bring to the forefront when you're out there in the world trying to be as authentically yourself, and you don't actually realize it until you start pushing past your comfort zone. Like I was always good at being in sales. I was always comfortable within the confines of another corporate company under a different logo, but when it's myself showing up in the world, those kind of things start coming through. And so you really have to manage it by understanding what that means, and talking to someone who can help you talk you through it, and just day-to-day challenges, like you've got co-founders and they're not necessarily getting along, or like we don't know how to do something,
people difficulties, like
for sure, like the culture you want to maintain and things like that. So so I would say that was definitely the most challenging, was that time.
So it sounds like you definitely had moments when you didn't want to get out of bed, you didn't want to go in for the day, you considered watching Netflix. When you were thinking those things, was there any point that you thought, I should just give up, this would be easier, maybe I'm not cut out for it?
So I think probably the one time that I felt that way, and granted I feel like that a lot, but the one time where I was like ready to shut down was actually after my 2 co-founders decided to leave. So as we were going through all of these ups and downs, it gets to the point where it's like, I'm not getting paid enough for this. I used to have a really nice paycheck. I could go back to corporate, right? And so I'd done that numerous times, and I was digging my heels in and saying in my mind, okay, I'm not doing that. But my co-founders both decided this was just not going to be a path they wanted to take, and I totally get it. So at that time I was looking at the idea of, okay, we need to shut down, so we need to reach out to our lawyer and, thanks, but we're done. Have fun. And there was just this moment where I was just thinking back, and I'm like, but I've already figured out, like I already know the end's over here. And there is much more for me to do, and I've already played it out in my mind. And part of the whole idea of being an entrepreneur is the visualization of where you're going, right? It's again another mental challenge, is just to keep going, and the perseverance that's required,
and it keeps you working towards something.
Exactly,
because the light at the end of the tunnel, figuratively speaking.
Totally. And I think the reason that a lot of startups fail, and they see 95% of them, I think it's not that they couldn't get funding, and it's not that they couldn't find the right team, or it's not they didn't even have the right idea, it's just that they gave up too soon. And even as hard as it is, you really do need some personal runway to keep going. Like, I get it. I get why people give up too soon, because man, if I hadn't have had that background where I was able to save a little money on the side to keep us going, because remember, my husband was still an entrepreneur as well.
Right.
So we were both entrepreneurs in industries that weren't exactly like rainmakers at the time until things started happening. So it's just one of those times where you realize that I've already played this out, and I'm already successful. Like, I'm there. So do I really want to cut it off right now and go back and feel extreme regret down the road? Or do I want to keep going? And so then I decided that I was going to keep going.
You were going to keep going.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, what did you do to stay persistent in that moment of being super low? It sounds like essentially you visualized yourself at the end of the road, having made it over the hump, having reached that success, having put your idea out there and people having embraced it, and kept you pushing forward through that difficult time where maybe you didn't have belief in yourself even?
Yeah, it was a little bit of the opposite too. So it was a lot of meditation.
Okay.
So I would wake up and do a lot of meditation and just go into presence and feel a lot of gratitude.
Okay.
So for me, that was really big at that time.
Like just staying present.
Just staying present. And in that meditative mode, just going to a place where I felt like there was nothing. Okay. So, stopping your mind from thinking, and from that came a lot of feelings of gratitude and thankfulness. And I also went out and just had a lot more fun. And
like socially,
and so the things that I started learning, as you become an entrepreneur, you start learning a lot of things about yourself, about the way of the world, and you start to get into things that are very scientific, like quantum physics and how the law of attraction, or how things come into your life in a certain way and how you make those things happen. So without going down this long discussion about it, it dawned on me, or I came to realize that having fun and actually not working on the business was the best thing I could do for the business, and not feeling distracted by it, not being stressed about it, but actually, like, if I'm spending time with family, I actually made more efforts to go spend time with friends and family than I'd ever done before. And I just felt like everything's going to fall into place. And at this point, it was just me. I was the only one it was just me. I had a crappy platform and no money, so it was like, okay, I'm basically back to square one, only I've had this like little blip on the landscape. And then so it was just one of those moments where it's like, I'm just gonna let the universe figure this out, because apparently I'm supposed to be doing this. I just didn't know what was going to happen next, and then things just started to fall into place after that.
Interesting. So it was a bit of a combo between staying in the present and not thinking 10,000 steps ahead.
Yeah.
But also thinking, you know what, I believe in myself.
Yeah.
I'm going to make it. Yeah. I know that this is the thing that I'm going to be successful at.
Yeah. It just pulled me forward. Like, I felt like every time I did want to stop, there would be a reason to keep going. Like, I would get a phone call a sign, right? Even with Dragon's Den, like, it was one of those times where it's like I could have quit shortly beforehand, and I might have, but then we got on Dragon's Den, and even after this show was shot, I didn't know if they were going to actually put it on air, and I was still like, am I going to continue, right? So it was one of those things where it's like, yes, you're going to be on season 13, episode 13. I'm like, okay, 13 is my lucky number now. So, it was just like, okay, I'll keep going, so it's just constantly like being pulled through. At the same time, like, always expecting it to be the world's largest space sharing platform, but still not knowing how it's going to happen, but just knowing that I just keep going forward.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so entrepreneurs often also talk a lot about the hustle that's required to get their business off the ground.
Yeah.
What's that hustle look like for you?
I think it can be different ways. So it can be, you hear of an opportunity and you get some flyers and you go out and you flyer an area and end up on the evening news. That's great opportunity, great hustle, and things just lined up.
Because you went out there.
Because you went out there and did it.
You did it.
Yeah. It can also be just those moments where you're like not feeling so much like you want to keep working, but you just keep putting one step in front of the other, even if they're really slow, and even if it's like I did an email today, or I managed to do these 3 things. Like, it's also that time where you don't have to work like 18 hours a week, 7 days a week, because people burn out, and this is how they end up like with some serious problems, drinking issues, depression, like substance abuse. Like, that is not the way we are meant to live our lives. We're meant to spend our lives living creatively and inspirationally, and that can be done. You can still work 12, 17 hours, but do it in a way where you're just passionate about every minute of it. And there are times where you're going to be like exhausted and like, I hate this and I'm done. But it doesn't have to be like go, 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 and this very aggressive push, push, push. I don't believe so. I believe that a lot of accelerators push that mentality, that it has to be fast and it has to be done like this, but I don't think they fully appreciate the element of magic. and the element of synchronicity and the element of luck. And I think that one of the things that isn't talked about enough is the fact that a lot of what people do when they go out into that world is they pull people into their existence that are going to be like transformative in terms of how their business can be. And yes, it means going out in the world and doing that. So you have to take that first step. But
you have to go out there and meet these people.
For sure.
Yeah.
But it doesn't that one person can open the door to like 1,000 new members, whereas I could be just at home hating my life and like posting or doing something and it doesn't do anything.
Right.
So I think the key is to finding your flow so that you can actually go out in the world and just be genuinely yourself and attract the people that are meant to be in your life, that are meant to take you along your path. So, and I think it is a very different way of doing business. Like people look at business like it's hustle, it's late nights, it's like sleeping under your desk, it's burning the candle at both ends, and it doesn't have to be that way. And I do think we need to start changing that conversation, because that when you talk about somebody you talk about going with the flow, but it's actually when you are flow, when you actually become that, or they say getting in the zone, you can like create things out of thin air that nobody would ever believe. And it's only when you start opening yourself up in that way can you be like, oh, I just met $1 million partner. I just, ran the fastest race of my life, and you just feel different. You're just in a different headspace. Yeah. So those are the things that I think entrepreneurs, you don't know until you actually become an entrepreneur, because 9 times out of 10, you're not finding out this information until you get on the path.
Right.
And then you're like, whoa.
Did you want to become an entrepreneur when you were growing up as a child in Georgetown?
I certainly did a lot of things that would indicate that. Like I always was trying to figure out ways to make money.
Okay.
So
selling lemonade.
Yeah, for sure. Like lemonade stands. There would be just opportunities at school where I would be like, how can I, capitalize on that? Or, selling something at school that maybe people needed. It was more though later. I think being an entrepreneur or having that mindset can come at later stages. And I think that it was something that was in me for a while, but I never actually felt confident enough to go out on my own and try it.
Of course, taking that step is the big leap into the unknown.
It really is. And I think that for myself, I didn't really know what I wanted to be when I grew up, but it was never, I never would have thought I would have my own company. Like never. Yeah. But it took a long time to get to where I felt confident enough to run a company.
Yeah. That makes sense. It's always easier to think of something, of an idea. Doing it is the hard part.
Completely, yeah. Everyone's full of great ideas. It's like, yeah, great idea. Go ahead and do it. Oh no,
it's too risky.
Yeah, for sure.
It's too scary.
For sure. Yeah, for sure.
You studied psychology and history at Western University, correct?
Yeah, you've done your homework.
Why did you pick those areas of study?
So when I was younger, one of the things I always wanted to do was help people.
Okay.
And I felt that psychology was a really great opportunity for me to become a therapist or work with young teens or help. I think for my mom, I really wanted to help people just be better selves, or help them out of a bad situation. And so psych was one of those things that I felt like was gonna do that.
Gonna get you there, yeah.
And I was always really interested in history, and I'm not sure why I ended up doing a minor, and if it was considered a minor, I guess, but it was just one of those things where I just really found it interesting. Put them together and you've got a degree in unemployment, but at the time it was just great ways for me to open up and learn more about the world, and psychology was fascinating to me.
Was it, you may have answered this, but was it chance or strategy that led you to pursue sales after university?
Oh, it was
having had to study those two things.
It was total chance. Like after I left, I traveled for a year and a half.
Okay.
And I came back with having seen a lot of the world with that same, like, I want to help people feeling.
Yeah.
But I'd also, prior to that, to save a little bit of money, I'd worked at a company where I saw people doing some sales for a magazine, and I thought, well, that looked kind of cool, and they made good money, and I like money. So I came back with, like, I'm either going to get into social work or I'm going to get into sales.
Okay, I understand, yeah.
So it was one of those things where...
Quite a big difference.
Huge difference. And it could have gone either way, except that a friend called me and she goes, I have a job available. There's a job at this company. You would be working with National Geographic and Discovery Channel as your clients. And I'm like, done.
My question is failure okay? Not in your case, but in general. Like, do you view failure as something that's completely negative and should be avoided at all costs? Or is it something that is perhaps has some positive aspects to it as well?